Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 127 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. Okay, so this week we're going to start off with a shave of the day. You ever heard of a straight razor with training wheels? Well, we'll talk about that too. Another shave of the day. Unfortunately, got another artisan going out of business, but somebody wrote a blog post that, has some lessons learned, if you will, and some things that are to be considered. So, good stuff there. We'll talk about that. Monday shave of the day. I shot sporting clays for the first time. Tuesday's shave of the day. What other stuff do wet shavers do? Somebody was listening to me, and he got talking about it too. So we'll talk about that. Another shave of the day, and finally the blade reality check, because I have been doing a head-to-head this weekend of 3 razor blades. So that's the show this week. Before we start the show, however, I would like to make you aware of something that has happened within our community. Most of you know Soap Commander, Darren Siebert. Well, his son Luke was in a pretty serious car accident on Monday, the 14th of March, and suffered some rather severe injuries. And the good news is he's alive. He is, however, in the hospital, and his medical bills will probably be rather extensive. He is needing some facial reconstruction as well as multiple surgeries. So first and foremost, I would like to have just a quick moment to pray for Luke and to pray for his family. And I know that he is well loved by his family, and I know his family is well loved by this community. There is a GoFundMe site. There's also things that are happening on Facebook to raise money, to make things known and raffle things off to raise some money for the family. But anything that you can consider, if it's a donation, that would be great. If it is a thought and a prayer for Darren and Carrie, just to sustain them, and of course for Luke and his brothers and sisters to also sustain them. They have done a tremendous amount for this community. They are good people, and it's a shame that this happened to this young man. And I hope that the good Lord will give him strength and courage, as well as to him and his family, to get through this, and hopefully look upon this as something that, yes, had to be endured, but maybe he can make a positive message out of it all. Anyhow, I will link to the GoFundMe site, which is the medical fund for Luke Siebert. And if you will, just take a moment briefly and say a prayer for Luke and his family. All right, with that out of the way, let's get on with this show. Well, let's talk about the shave of the day. Okay, so today, the shave of the day this week, oh goodness, let's try this again. Well, let's talk about, I guess not, goodness. Well, let's talk about the shave of the day. The shave of the day. First off, I was in just a bit of a hurry because I got something to do this morning. But the shave of the day is going to be part of a head-to-head. And for me, that head-to-head is Kai blades against Gillette Silver Blues. And I may throw a crystal in there just because I like those too. But today, I wanted to try the Kai in a different razor just to see, okay, is it razor dependent, or is it one of these things that this is just, for me, a fine blade that works in whatever I throw at it? And so I loaded up a new Kai blade, and I happened to put it in a Gillette Old. And one of the nice things about the Gillette Old is that the open comb is very close to the cutting edge of the blade, which means I can get in tight without any muss and fuss. In places like under the nose and lower lip and things like that. So good stuff there. Now the soap is a little bit of combination, if you will, because the last time that I had a chance to use a puck soap was either Jeeves or Cat A, and I had both of those sitting in my salsa bowls. Well, I wanted to lather up in a salsa bowl today, so I took the Jeeves soap out of it, and it was the barbershop scent, and took that soap out, put it in a plastic bag, and put it in my stash, and proceeded to try to rinse out the bowl with the residue of the soap. Didn't really succeed in the limited time that I had. Didn't have time to mess with it, so squirted a little bit of Omega soap or Omega cream from the tube into the salsa bowl and lathered it up. So it was predominantly Omega soap with a little bit of Jeeves of Hudson Street mixed in. So a fine lather, and the great Omega smell that I really enjoy. Omega, if you've never tried it, is very much like Spike. It's kind of an herbal, more of an herbal soap than anything else. But good stuff. I really enjoy it. Anyhow, I wanted to do that because I knew that soap worked very, very well and gave a lot of glide and a lot of cushion, and generally gave a nice shave no matter what blade I threw at it. So, just decided, plus it's quick. And so I had that going for it as well. So the shave, a quick 3-pass with a real light touch-up, and BBS on the cheeks without any problems at all. Socially acceptable, in between socially acceptable and BBS under the chin. Neck area, all that. And again, I was rushed, so all in all, a great shave. Finished it off with Clubman Pinot and Pinot Clubman, I guess. Classic scent. And here we go, starting the day. So we'll see what today brings, and hopefully it'll all be good. Who knows? If not, that's okay. We'll just wing it and make it good. So I must admit, when I saw this the other day over on Sharpologist's blog, I about fell over. Because it's fun and useful all at the same time. So the title of the blog post is How to Shave with a Straight Razor Using Training Wheels. And there's a video to go along with this blog post that does a really good job of describing it. But essentially what it is using your straight razor with binder clips. Now, binder clips are sometimes called office clips, and they are the big clips that are used to hold paper together, instead of paper clips. And so what this, if you look, and the thing is that after I saw this, I was sitting in a meeting. So I was sitting in a meeting at work, and I was playing around with a piece of paper, a small Post-it, and I happened to have a binder clip in my hand. And so I folded the piece of paper up to about the same size as say a 5/8, 4/8 razor or, straight razor, and put the binder clip on it. And realized that the binder clip held nicely and took a lot of pressure to move that piece of paper from one side to the other if I had started off in the middle. Now, the thing is that a binder clip, if you look at the angle of the thing, it is a 45-degree angle. That's the angle of the sides of the binder clip. And if you cut that in half by basically clipping it to the backside of a straight razor, what you have done is given yourself an absolutely wonderful 22.5-degree slope upon which to use as a guide for shaving. And that's what this does. And so if you put 2 or 3 binder clips on a straight razor and use the edges of the binder clips as guides, essentially what you have created is a way to, well, hold the bevel easily and nicely while you're shaving. And so, of course, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, okay, first off, it's easy. It's kind of cool. It's very, very useful. One of the biggest things for me when I first started out especially was that I would get the angle, the bevel, if you will, above about 45 degrees, and that's what I would, cut myself or slice into myself or whatever. And so having a consistent and constant reminder to pull that angle back towards your face to 22.5 degrees, well, is quite useful. So I found it amazing that I was sitting there in the office while I was in a meeting playing around with this and, well, thinking about training wheels. So let's talk about the shave of the day. Okay, so today I went ahead and loaded up a feather in the Gillette Old. Still use the Omega soap, boar brush, Gillette Old, but instead of the Kai blade, use the feather blade. And quite honestly, got a shave that, at least from the feel of it, is very similar. It really is fantastic. So now it's like, okay, now I have 2 blade choices that are really, really superb, and that is the Kai and or the feather. So it was interesting. It was, within that razor, it was very similar. There wasn't a lot of difference between them. They both almost felt like there wasn't a blade there. And yet at the same time, I knew that there was. So all in all, good stuff. I'm going to try to, I've got some Gillette Blues, and I'll have to throw one of them in maybe tomorrow and do it again. But yeah, so far the shave of the day comparison, blade to blade, is well, it's kind of fun. The hardest part is keeping the blades separated and figuring out remembering where I put them. Yeah, so all in all, good stuff. It wasn't a bad shave at all. Again, I really like the Gillette Old. It is it's a fine little razor. And, when you think about how old the Old is, and the fact that it still does an absolutely superb job, and yeah, it's an amazing thing, It's one of those things where you buy once and it's like, yeah, you could potentially keep it forever and have it still quite functional. It's also interesting because it's made out of brass, and I have to ask myself, why aren't more razors nowadays made out of brass? There's a lot that are made out of stainless, but why not brass? Brass is actually a pretty good material. And, it's like the Gillette Short Comb New was brass with a copper top, and it's like, well, why not more brass? Wouldn't be as expensive as stainless. Granted, it wouldn't necessarily be as durable, to bangs and things like that, but, most of us don't walk around dropping our razors on the floor all the time, so, maybe an alternative. So if anybody's out there looking at making, like a slant or something like that wants the heft of stainless, brass might be an alternative. Also, it machines really, really well, really easily, and really fast. So it's got that going for it too. And quite honestly, I've often wondered if Gillette didn't use brass specifically for its ability to be machined quickly and easily, and to be poured in castings and things at fairly low temperatures compared to steels, for example. So, yeah, just one of those curiosities, one of the things that you sit around in the morning and go, I wonder. Craig put out a blog post on Sharpologist as well, talking about the closure of the Strop Shop. And so the artisan soap maker, the Strop Shop, is out of business. And, he kind of goes into the history of the Strop Shop and the sense that they made and everything. But the thing that I found interesting was, the takeaway lessons from all of this. And number one, for artisans, I found really good. Innovation and responsiveness to customer demands / complaints are needed. Yeah, and for the most part, what I've seen, anyhow, is that the artisans that are very active on social media and are reachable, I guess is the best word, they're the ones that seem, anyhow, to do very, very well and very, very nicely. They get a good following. They keep things going, and they seem to have fun doing it as well. And the biggest thing is that they're accessible. And so if somebody has an issue or a problem, they're accessible to handle it. And so that seems to work. So I'm glad he put that as number one. The other thing that I thought was interesting is, he kind of went number 3 was the soap-based formula design playing field is becoming increasingly level. In other words, everybody has a tallow soap or a lanolin-based soap, and that's just kind of the way it is. So, yeah, maybe so, and I can see that. And so when you start looking at that, how do you differentiate yourself? Well, about the only way left is then with scent. And so that's something to think about and consider. The other one, which probably should have been number 2, but he has it on his list as number 7, good customer service may only be moderately appreciated and praised, but bad customer service will spread far and wide. Okay. If you go and have a good experience at a place, and it doesn't matter where the place is, whether that's a restaurant or a car dealership, if you have a decent experience, you may tell one person in passing. If you have a miserable experience, you're going to tell everybody that's willing to listen. I mean, it's just the way human beings are. And, yeah, I would have put that up at number 2. That's just me. So, yeah, I thought, the list has about 10 things for artisans, and then they have another list for consumers. Number 1 on that list, unfortunately, is expect to see more companies going away. And, stockpile what you like now before it does, because it may very well go away. And, the other thing, number 4 on this list, which I also think is good, is communicate with your favorite artisans. Let them know they're doing a good job, or let them know if you have concerns. Talk to them, communicate with them, and if they're paying attention to the list up above as to what they might want to consider, being accessible and reachable to their customers, they'll get a lot of good feedback and maybe figure out what it is that both differentiates them from everybody else, but also what the customer wants. Now, unfortunately, there's a postscript to this post, and apparently Knockout Shave and Tim Shave Soaps have announced that they're going out of business too. Which is a shame, because I really like some of Knockout Shave's products. Ralph over there did a great job, and that's a shame. But at the same time, yeah, it happens, and it's happened a good bit. And as things are getting, more people are coming in, and more people are doing it, and yeah, it's just unfortunately it's the way things are, and so I'll link to this post. I thought it was a great blog post. Really had some good points and, a good bit of history about the Strop Shop that, I didn't know about. right, well, let's talk about the shave of the day. Okay, so the shave of the day today was, well, good and tragic all at the same time. We'll start with the tragic. So the first thing that I did this morning was I selected my razor that I have been using for the last couple of days here, today and yesterday, which is the black handle flare tip, because I wanted to do my head-on challenge of the 3 blades that I'm testing in a vintage Gillette. And those 3 blades, of course, are the Kai, the Feather, and the Gillette Silver Blue. So I unloaded the Kai out of the Gillette Silver Blue and loaded in the Feather. Now, I then proceeded to take my salsa bowl and stick it in the sink, fill it up with hot water, and drop my Samog 1305 into the hot water to soak the brush. Proceeded then to jump in the shower. Jumped out of the shower looking forward to a glorious shave. Squirted some of the Omega shaving cream into the one of my other salsa bowls. Grabbed the brush handle for the Samog 1305 out of the water. And all I had was the handle, because the knot was floating around in the hot water. What the hey? Now, granted, this thing's a daily driver, but you're talking, what, maybe a year and a half worth of use here? Oh my gosh. This is tragic. This is my favorite brush. This is the handle that I love. This is the knot that I love. I mean, okay, call it a year of daily use, but still. Oh my gosh. What the hey? All right. Throw down a towel, snap a picture, throw it on Instagram and Twitter with, what the hey? And proceed, because I don't have another brush soaked, to grab a Plisson and shave with a synthetic brush. Okay. All in all, the shave was wonderful. Okay, a feather in a vintage Gillette is a nice combination. So, yeah, there's that. But, of course, then there's the tragedy, the absolute tragedy of my Samog basically giving up the ghost when it comes to the knot being in the handle there. Now, just to be clear, I store this brush and I dry this brush with the handle down. I set it on its handle. I do not go to the nth degree of hanging this brush in order to dry. However, when I soak it, I do soak it up to, the depth of the full knot, and I soak it for however long it takes me to take a shower. So you're talking at least 10 minutes, maybe a little longer. And then when I get done with it, I rinse it out, shake it out, and proceed to pop it on its handle with the bristles standing straight up to dry. And I've been doing that just about religiously for easily a year every time I use it. So to have the brush fall apart like this is just catastrophic. I mean, I have always extolled the virtues of a Samog brush, and they're still wonderful brushes. But the thing that gets me is that the brush problems that I have, it's not necessarily problems with the knots, it's not problems necessarily with the handles, it's that the two won't stay together. Have these people never heard of epoxy? Have they never heard of waterproof epoxy? I mean, are we getting cheap in the manufacturing of brushes to the point where we use the best materials or at least suitable materials for the knots, reasonable materials for the handle, and then go cheap in the glue? Really? Especially when you're considering something that would maybe add what? A nickel? When you look at the overall scheme of things. Yeah, colored me not impressed. Anyhow, I'm going to post this today on Facebook and see what kind of stuff I get, but I'm not happy. Yeah. Tragic. Anyhow, finished up the shave of the day with some British Sterling, only because it's got some fairly good alcohol content in it, and threw it on there, and it just got a little bit of alcohol sting, but I mean very small and very slight. So second shave on all the blades, well, except for the Gillette Silver Blue, that's tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's been an interesting test. I'll let you know my results, or my opinions anyhow, on Wednesday. So I did something the other day, Saturday as a matter of fact, that I have never done before. Okay, now I have had a shotgun for a long time. I've gone rabbit hunting with it, squirrel hunting with it, bird hunting with it, but one thing that I have never done with a shotgun is I have never shot clays. I've never shot skeet, never shot clays. I've never tried to hit one of those silly things. And I did this weekend. Now, just to give you a little background, as you well know, I'm a scoutmaster of a troop here in the upstate of South Carolina. And my son, my oldest son, made Eagle Scout. And one of the things that he has always been very good at is shooting. Started way back when we started out with a little BB gun on the back porch shooting tin cans off the fence. Or pop cans off the fence. He has always been a very, very good shot. I don't know if it's his eyesight or just instinct or a little bit of both or what, but he's always been just a very good shot. This is the guy that went to summer camp and did the rifle merit badge and qualified the first day. Went and next year got the shotgun merit badge and qualified the first day. So he's a pretty good shot. And, one of the things that him and his buddies have done is go out and go clay shooting every now and then. And so it's a good thing. When he turned 18, I bought him a little Mossberg 500 shotgun, and he absolutely enjoys it. So good stuff there. So anyhow, he came back from college and on spring break, and it was a beautiful Saturday, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing today?" I said, "Well, I don't have anything planned." He said, "Well, you got a shotgun, right?" I said, "Yeah, I got it. Got an old 870 Remington." He said, "Well, let's pack them up, and I've got some shells and some clays, and let's go clay shooting." It's like, okay, I've never done it before. You'll have to teach me how to do it. He's like, all right. So we go out there, and we get the well, first off, we go out there, and we'd driven out there in our excitement and forgotten the clays. So we had to go buy some more clays, but that's okay because they are not expensive. Anyhow, so we get there, and the range that we frequent, you give them your license, and they'll give you a thrower, and use it, and when you're done, you get your license back. So it's a good deal. It really is a nice, and they're pretty nice throwers. So anyhow, we loaded up and shot singles for a little bit. I tried his shotgun, he tried mine. Now the interesting thing about the two shotguns is my 870 has a 28-inch vent rib barrel, and it's got a single bead sight up in the front. And his is a Mossberg, and I can't remember if it's 26 or 28-inch barrel. Anyhow, it's a vent rib barrel as well. And it actually has two beads. It's got a bead up front, and then it's got a bead in the middle. Well, he has grown accustomed to those two beads, and he is very much an aimer. So when he tried my shotgun, he did not have good luck with it. And when I tried his shotgun, those two beads were kind of throwing me. I was instinctively trying to do things that, well, just they didn't want to work. So, but that's okay. That's what makes it fun. I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever works. So anyhow, we started shooting singles. Now these are pump action shotguns, so every shot you got to pump it. So we're taking a shot, pumping it, and throwing a new one in, and it's just going to town, right? So anyhow, he says, "Well, how would you like to try a double?" Now I'm doing a pretty good job of smashing singles, and so is he. I mean, we're fairly consistent. And he says, "Well, how about a double?" I'm like, okay. So he pulls a double, and the first thing I do is I pop the one over on the right-hand side. I'm standing on the left-hand side of the thrower. I pop the one over on the left-hand side and rack the pump mechanism all the way back and go swinging over to the other one. And about the time when I think I ought to be shooting, I pull the trigger, and there's nothing there because, oh, crap, I forgot to slide the pump forward and actually load a shell in the dang thing. It's like, crap, slide it forward. I still got it, but it was like, yeah, a bit of hesitancy there. And that was definitely the difference between shooting singles and shooting doubles, and all on top of the fact I haven't shot my shotgun in a long time. So we played around there and had a great time, and shot, 100 rounds, and went through a box of clays and just had an absolute blast. And yeah, now the best part, of course, is next day. So I come home or wake up the next day, and he comes down and he starts poking my cheek. I'm looking at him like, what the heck are you doing? He said, well, are you sore? I'm like, no, why? He starts poking harder. He says, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, quit poking me. And he says, well, I'm sore. So it was a triple win for me. First off, actually multiple wins. First off, I got to go out and spend some time with my son, so that was always great. I got to shoot my shotgun, a great thing. I got to shoot clays, and I shot as well as my son did, which I think really upset him. He didn't expect me, for not having shot for so long, to be able to do that. So that was fun. And then on top of that, I wasn't sore the next day. So, anyhow, I did prove a couple of things. I tend to be a very instinctive shooter, and he I think is much more of an aimer. And so that was an interesting thing to find out about yourself. And yeah, a good time was had by all. If you haven't done it, give it a try if you can swing it. Go out and find somebody to shoot around the clays with, and just have some fun. It's a blast. All right, so let's talk about the shave of the day. Okay, so the shave of the day today, seeing as how my 1305 Samog boar brush came apart, and I posted that up on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and the predominant repair method is epoxy and or Gorilla Glue, and I don't know if Gorilla Glue is in fact an epoxy. It may be, but yeah, although a couple people said, well, they're so inexpensive, just get another one. Well, yeah, you could do that, but I'd rather keep the one I have because it's broken in very, very nicely. Anyhow, so we'll go ahead and get around to fixing that. I got another the fine brush with the synthetic knot that came apart. I've got to fix that, and yeah, so it'd be a good thing to have on hand anyhow, so not a problem. So anyhow, the shave of the day today, I used my Samog Owners Club brush, my SOC brush, and lathered up the Omega soap and put the Gillette Silver Blue in my flare tip, black handle flare tip vintage Gillette razor. Now, I have stated before that the Gillette Silver Blue in a vintage Gillette razor is, for me anyhow, probably the optimal, or one of the optimal combinations, because it almost seems like the razor, the blade itself isn't even there. It's so smooth and so nice. So what were my observations? Now, keep in mind, day before yesterday, I used a Kai blade, then I used a feather blade, and so today we have the Gillette Silver Blue. The blade still felt like it really wasn't there. However, after the shave, I did a 3-pass shave, and it's pretty dang close, but not as close as what I could get with the feather or the Kai for the same effort. So that's interesting. It's again, it points back to the observations anyhow that the feather and the Kai blades are just, well, a little sharper and do a little bit better job. Now, as far as comfort level, the shave itself was exceptionally comfortable. Although I did notice after the shave, throwing on a little alcohol-based aftershave, I had a little bit more stinging sensation. from, razor burn or whatever, irritation of some type, compared to the feather and the Kai blades, which really kind of fascinated me. Now, at the same time, it wasn't bad. It really wasn't. It was just more. So, and when you, like for my Kai blade, for example, throw on aftershave and feel, well, nothing, anything is more. So it's an interesting comparison. It's always, you get into the minutia when you start checking out and comparing the top of anything, it's just. So anyhow, that was my shave of the day today, and essentially what I have discovered is that for me right now, and this may change, I don't know if my face will change or skin will change or whatever, but for right now, the Kai is actually a little bit, well, at least for me, a little bit preferable to the feather, and I find myself amazed at saying that. The feather is slightly preferable to the Gillette Silver Blue, and the Gillette Silver Blue, well, came in third. God. Wow, I never thought I'd say that either. So anyhow, again, that's kind of the advantage of finding somebody to sell you, single blades, so you can buy one or two of them, or three, or something like that, so you can get a good comparison. But I have thoroughly enjoyed this comparison. It has, first off, it's given me some great shaves. So no real downside there. The other thing is that it has been an interesting experience because I did not expect anything to beat the feather, and I didn't really expect my Gillette Silver Blues to come in third. So, So anyhow, that was... It's kind of fun. Interesting, too. So, if you happen to be out there and feeling adventurous, you may want to consider doing yourself a comparison on a couple of different razors of razor blades just to see, what works for you. Now, the other interesting thing is that the Gillette Silver Blue actually felt better in the twist-to-open silo-doored black handle flare tip than it did in the Gillette Old, which was curious. I had not expected that reaction at all. So, you learn all kinds of things. It's really an intriguing adventure it has been. So I was also looking at the blog post shavestraightandsafe.com, and Joe put up a blog post, Does Wet Shaving Lead to Other Hobbies? And he says, a few months ago, I was listening to the Brush and Soap and Blade podcast and heard Rick discuss his interest in other forms of classic collecting. And while listening, I couldn't believe that other wet shavers shared similar interests. Also, little did I know that it was a trend. So, first off, Joe, thanks for the shout out. I greatly appreciate it. And I sent him he's got a list, and he talks about some of the things. Fountain pens, for example. Yeah, we do have that. Mechanical watches, yeah. Shoe shine kits, yeah. And people actually sitting around and taking care of quality leather products. There's something about quality leather products that kind of goes in this list as well. Whether that be good boots, good belts, briefcases, cases in general, we like to take care of good leather craft made products. Coffee roasting and coffee brewing, absolutely. Yeah, that's a big one. Spirits and craft beer, yes, both making beer and wine as well as appreciating spirits and craft beer. And the other thing that I wrote to him, and I said, and I'll link to the post because it's a pretty good little blog post. But the other thing I said is basically axes, hatchets, and anything made out of metal that holds an edge. So throw knives in there too, whether they be folding pocket knives or straight blades or, making knives and carrying knives. And, well, then there's the other one, trying to sharpen things. That's always a good one. Yeah, there are a lot of hobbies that we have, and some of them are a little bit time-consuming and interesting. I found that there's a good number of wet shavers that also are involved in ham radio pursuits. And that is very interesting as well. So, calligraphy that goes along with the fountain pens. And in fact, I have been practicing my writing and am slowly but surely getting very, very good, which is really fun because there have been studies that say that people that write well and neatly are thought of as being very intelligent. Whether they are or not remains to be seen, but they're thought of as knowing what they're talking about and being very intelligent. So I just find that amusing. So anyhow, like I said, I'll link over to the blog post over there, Joe's blog post over at Shave Straight and Safe, and check it out if you get a chance. All right, so for the final shave of the day this week, I went ahead and, used my new preferred blade, which is the Kai. Although this time I used it in my Fat Boy. And, So, Samog Owners Club brush, because my 1305 fell apart. That's all right. I'll fix it. I did have one interesting note on, I think it was Facebook, where someone said that it looked like the glue had melted and asked if the water that I was using to soak my brush in was too hot. Okay, well, that is a good point. However, my water, I do not believe, is too hot. It is normal tap water and coming out of the hot water side of the tap, and I've got it turned down to about 110 to 115. I turned it down, 20 years ago when the kids were young and I didn't want them to get scalded in bathtubs and showers and things, and I've never turned it up. And so I don't think my water's too hot. Could be, but I don't think so. It's the water that I normally, shower in and everything else. It's the same hot water setting that we've had, like I said, for 15, 20 years. And I've been in places, houses, workplaces, things like that have their hot water set way higher than mine. So I don't think that that's it. Now, like I said, I do take that brush and stand it up on end. So anyhow, this weekend, if everything works out all right, I will get some either epoxy or Gorilla Glue or something, and the Gorilla Glue epoxy, I guess it is. And I will clean up the both sides of the knot and the brush and glue it back together. And I'll also take the opportunity to re-glue my fine knot back into the brush, and that way I have a little synthetic brush that I can use as well. So anyhow, on to the shave of the day. The shave of the day today. Like I said, Samog Owners Club brush, use the Omega soap. I really do like that soap. It's got the herbal feel and smell and everything. Again, very much like Spike. If you've never tried either Spike or Omega shaving creams, you might want to consider it. It really is a treat. It's got kind of a tingly feel, almost like it has menthol, but I don't think it does. It's herbal in nature, and instead of menthol. I don't believe there's any menthol on. I'll have to check, but I don't believe there is. Anyhow, they're really, really nice soaps. Now, for the money, the Omega, I think, if I remember correctly, is a little bit less expensive than the Spike. Spike comes in a small, metal tube. And the Omega comes in a little bit larger plastic tube. And anyhow, good stuff on the shaving cream side of things. Samog Owners Club in the old salsa bowl whipped up an absolutely glorious lather, and didn't have any problems there. Went ahead and applied it, and proceeded to shave it off with the Gillette Fat Boy with a setting of about I think I still have it at a 5. Yeah, I have it at a 5. And the Kai blade. Now, the interesting thing is that, again, when I use a Gillette Silver Blue in the Fat Boy at a setting of 5, I don't really feel the blade. It's almost like the blade is narrower edge to edge on the double-edged blade. And because of that, I don't have the same blade exposure in the Fat Boy. Now, the Kai, on the other hand, I could feel the blade. It wasn't bad or rough or anything like that, but I could definitely feel the edge of the blade. And the good news is that because the Kai is such a wonderfully sharp and smooth blade, what it does is it kind of reminds you to go with relatively light pressure and shave. And a good shave it was. Very easy to do touch-ups, no problems, no issues. And, a good shave was had by all. Went downstairs, and before I did, I threw on a little British Sterling, and mainly because the British Sterling, like I've said in the past, seems to have, just a little bit more alcohol than some of the others that I have. And if there are any issues with, I'm using it as a gauge for shaving issues. If there are multiple issues, irritations, things like that, the extra alcohol in the British Sterling will let me know. And anyhow, splash some on, and for the most part, not much. So another good shave with a Kai blade. So, but that has been kind of the head-to-head. Again, Kai came out on top, Feather second, and a close second, and my Gillette Silver Blues, which at one time were my all-time fan favorites, and in fact I got a pretty good stockpile of them for that very reason, came in third. Wow. Oh well. Unexpected result, but that's okay because I've been getting some really great shaves after the experiment and because of the experiment. So all is good in the world. Just like all is good out here. Beautiful clear sky, sun shiny, nice day. Hope you're having one too. At the end of the day, after a week of playing around with my three, pretty much favorite razor blades that I liked and coming to a conclusion that, the Kai is probably the best blade for me, followed by the Feather and then the Gillette Silver Blue. It just happens to be the way it is. I went on just as a reality check and went over to try a blade because that gives me a pretty good foundation in what the prices are for those particular blades. Now, the Gillette Silver Blue is a blade that is made in Russia. It's Teflon coated, and it's 45 cents a piece. Well, that's a pretty good price. I mean, that is nowhere near as low as some of the treat blades, but then again, a treat blade, I will guarantee, does not feel like a Gillette Silver Blue. In my opinion, the Gillette Silver Blue at 45 cents a piece is a very, very fine blade and well worth that 45 cents. The next one is the Feather. Now, it's interesting that the Feather, made in Japan, has a platinum coating, and it is 55 cents a piece. So, a little bit more money and a little bit better shave. So that makes sense. Now, the next thing is that I have not, if I look at the prices, I've got a couple of these razors, of these blades rather, that they talk about, but lo and behold, in the double-edged category, the top price blade that Tri-Blade carries is the Kai stainless steel at a whopping 85 cents per blade. Now, I got to admit, it is a great blade. It is very smooth. It is very comfortable. Goodness knows I got a lot of shaves out of it last week. And so, this week in the head-to-head, it is a great blade. But it is almost double the cost of the Gillette Silver Blue. And for me, is it double the performance? No. It's better. It's a little bit smoother. It's a little bit better. It lasts a little bit longer, but I don't think it's double the blade, or near double the blade anyhow. So it's interesting that my tests, if you will, and granted they are very subjective because, well, it's me doing it. It's not like there's a bunch of people trying this out. It's just me. And everybody is different. So please do not take this as gospel, because when it comes to your preferences, you're the only one that can make that choice. I can't make it for you. But it was very, very interesting when I looked and saw that the blades lined up in price, well, essentially the same way that I line them up in performance. But it's also interesting that the Kai is at 85 cents. It's a very good blade. You know, when I look, for example, the single edge blade, the feather spineless blade that I can use in my Autostrop Valets, which are excellent blade, they're 95 cents, and that's only for one edge. Now, they last a long time. I would dare say that the Kai probably lasts a little bit longer because you have two edges. So that's very, very comparable in my book between the two. Now, of course, the advantage is that the feather spineless allows me to use it in other razors, and putting a spine on it really opens it up to all kinds of stuff, whereas the Kai stainless steel, I'm using it in double-edged razors. So very, very interesting. But I'll link to all those blades so you can check them out. And again, it was a bit of a reality check. Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at brushandsoapandblade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, brushandsoapandblade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.